Before I even met my abuser, I had just finished dialectical behavioral therapy. I was just a mom with two kids, trying to figure out kind of more of who I was navigating the world after a foster care experience for me personally. So I did this dialectical behavioral therapy and thought, oh my gosh, I have it down pat. I know how to emotionally regulate. I know what red flags I'm looking for. I know what I'm doing. I know how to be healthy. I got this. And I had started getting my foster care files and actually made quite a big name for myself online on accident talking about my foster care experience. I was on some interviews online and stuff talking just about foster care and my trauma. So when I met my abuser, I was talking about my foster care trauma, trauma training, all my experiences from foster care. I was working with other foster parents. I was running a charity at the time where I was preparing packages to send out to youth that were aging out. I liked to catch them then, help them get their birth certificates and things that the state often doesn't help with, and also try to get them towards healing some of those inner childhood wounds so that we could be prepared to go to college or do those things, because I struggled when I had turned 18 with that. That's kind of who I was before I had met him. I was this feisty little advocate. I'd made it in the newspaper for protesting for my own foster care files. I was nervous, but I was finding my voice, I thought, and I was kind of making waves in the foster care community and found that I could be heard. I thought I understood when really I was just scratching the surface of myself, really. More would come later for processing, but yeah, I thought I understood like what an abuser looked like from my own experiences, looking backwards. And I thought that I was able to make decisions when picking a partner. I thought I could call that out going forward. That's why I had done the DBT. It kind of teaches you to validate yourself and not rely on other people. I thought I could do all that, but it turns out that I'm just a very empathetic person. I explained this to him, right? I came to him all excited, and I'm on the autism spectrum. So sometimes when I'm really excited, like I'm excited. Some people really like my excitement, some people don't, but that's okay. I was like, listen, I've learned all this stuff and I've been overcoming my trauma and I'm so proud of myself. Here's my poetry, right? I'm like giving away a roadmap to myself up front before I know the person I'm dealing with. And in the beginning, he was validating, like actually validating. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so seen. I'm so heard. This is my soulmate. And he was saying things that I think a lot of us have in common, where he was saying, you are my soulmate. I would find you in any universe, in any timeline. It should have been a red flag. But if you don't know, you don't know, you're like, wow, they really think I'm special.
And you married him in Pennsylvania before moving to
Within
California?
3 months of knowing him.
Okay.
Yep. So this was, and I have a little bit of a TBI, so it's 2023. It was from, I was in California from May until July or August or so. So I was there from spring through the summer. I intended to move there, so I brought like everything I owned. I kept one storage unit in Pennsylvania, but I tried to move. Um, but I was there over the summer, basically. I came back to Pennsylvania in the fall, and then he was arrested November of 2023. I called the police on him early on, okay, and I should have known then, but it kind of, I knew, but I didn't know. I'd say I really, really knew when I got to California, which I will get into, but I kind of knew. And I only put it this way because even with what I knew, he dug me crystals from a rock quarry and like brought me wildflowers, and like I had just never seen anything quite like that before, probably for a reason. But so yeah, for sure I was very confused, and by the time it was all happening, when you're in survival mode, PTSD and whatnot, I like to say it sounded like there was music playing in the background until the day I left. I couldn't really hear, I couldn't really see. And for reference, we're in Bear Valley Lake. That's where the cabin was, but he's taking us on a hike, and this is where I know things go wrong. We get there. It's a rocky getting there, so I'm blaming all the DV that's happening along the way as he's tired. It was a long trip. We were hungry. It's a hard we're crossing the United States via Greyhound, personally, is how we went. So I'm like, it was rough. Like, it's kind of valid. Okay. The arguments and stuff, fine. We get there and he's like, let's go on a hike. He's a big hiker. I'm like, okay. So he gets the backpack and I go to pick up mine and he's telling me, don't bring the backpack. I'll carry the backpack. He's my husband at this point. And I'm like, so happy that he's like, carrying the backpack all masculine. You're like, that's how I'm putting this. But deep down, I think in my stomach, I knew I should have brought my own darn backpack. And I'll never make that mistake again. So we start hiking up in Bear Valley. And if you look at the elevation from where I'm at in Pennsylvania to where I was in these mountains, there is a difference in how your breathing is, your cognitive levels. So he hikes us 15 miles and he's refusing us water from the life water straw. And I'm like tired. I'm
Oh,
lazy. I'm a TikToking gal. I sit at home. So I'm like, I don't mind learning your skills in the backyard, but we're like deep in the woods. And I'm like, where are we going? And he wouldn't tell me where he was trying to take me. So I felt responsible or wrong for trying to walk away. So I called the police on him about 2 months into dating because we had had a conversation. We were on opposite agreeing sides. He starts throwing names at me. And I'm like, no, I'm strong. I'm confident. No way. I'm like, get out of my apartment. Like, what do you think you're going to call me names? Like, get out of my apartment. I thought I could do it. I kicked him out. He kicked in my door. Trying to get back in, screaming in rage, kicked in my door, trying to get back in. I called the police, and the police kind of acted like they knew him a little, but they weren't giving away too much. And they were like, just stay away. And I was like, okay. No, I didn't. He like apologized, and I'm thinking, oh, it's just a door. So I start rationalizing early on. I'm like, it's just a door. He didn't like hit me or do this. He didn't do. That began very early on. I didn't know no until I got to California what kind of trouble I was really in. This police call I just told you about, when I went to get back with him, he made me make two promises that nobody knew about, and nobody knew about until recently. I've been honest more. One of them was not to call the police. I've been ashamed to talk about that, but he was like, I want to get married to you. But one of the things is like, you can never call the police on me again. We don't involve the police. Like, we'll handle things privately. We were going to move to California and live a more simple lifestyle. Like, we were going to build an A-frame cabin. We were going to homestead. We were going to have chickens. This, like what the kind of trend thing that a lot of us were getting into at that time, wanting to do. Only he had been raised in bushcraft skills, so
yeah.
he really could build stuff out in the woods. Like, he spent a lot of time out there. So I thought, okay. He's like, let's go to California. So I sell everything I own. I have children. These are not his children. So a little difference in things is that I had children with me, and I took these kids. We crossed the United States, and on the bus ride going to California, he started changing a little. So we get married. We're suddenly going to California immediately. It's happening fast for everybody else. And there were people in my life going, it's a little fast, you know what I mean? Like, but I seemed happy. I'm also just posting really happy pictures on TikTok and stuff. He convinces me to delete my famous TikTok that I had at the time that had thousands and thousands, and make a new TikTok called with a new name. I'm not gonna get into that, but with a new name that was supposed to be based on starting new in California. I turned around and I went back to the cabin, and he followed me in the woods, but he didn't like, I knew he was hiding behind trees and stuff. Like, he talked to me about how he could walk quietly in the woods and how he skilled himself in all these weird military things or whatever. And so I knew he was there. I don't know why I didn't panic more about it, but I got back to the cabin and I waited 2 hours. My son fell asleep. I waited 2 hours and he still wasn't back. And I was like, maybe it's just he went fishing. He went to hike. He went to get some steam out. And that was the first night that he came. That was my first day in California, and he walked in the cabin, and I kept replaying this memory, trying to figure out, what did I do? Because as a victim, you think, what did I say that made that person that angry? You try to figure out, like, what. Now that it's been a year, I can say I did nothing. He walked into a room. Maybe I had a little tone in my voice, like, where have you been? Right? Is that worthy of being strangled? Because that was the first night that he strangled me. And when he strangled me, because I had never had that experience before, I did not know what to do. All right. You see things on TV about black eyes and beaten, and you think to yourself, I'm not really beaten, but that was really scary. Your adrenaline's pumping. I'd say that was when I knew that, like, I knew that I needed to leave, but I wasn't sure how to yet. I didn't know what to do yet. That weird moment. Because after it happened, I fawned personally. Went into the bathroom and I kept thinking in my mind, and it sounds a little cliche, I'm so sorry, but this is just honesty. I kept thinking, my love, like, he's hurt me now, I have to leave. Like, there's no choice. I don't even have a choice, and it doesn't matter how much I don't want to leave, how much I want to understand everything you've been through that's brought you here. I have to leave now. Now there is no choice. You're making me do something that I don't want to do. And I sat with myself and I tried to not cry very loudly because I wasn't sure who I was dealing with. The person I thought I was dealing with, who said that you'd find me in any universe, just strangled me. And I'm in California. I don't know anybody. I'm in a mountain that I would literally, you can't just get an Uber down from where we got this Verbo cabin. I had trouble even accessing food while up there. So I'm thinking I had to hike down off this mountain. I have to be quiet until I can get off this mountain down to where there will be people. But in between that, the abuse cycle happens, and when I got off that mountain, by then he had convinced me that he would never do that again. So that night was the first night that I was reminded of your daughter's story. I hope you don't mind me bringing that up, but it's kind of pivotal to me. And I say that and people are like, oh, and I'm like, I don't think you understand that your daughter's story was the first time that I heard the words strangulation attached to the passing of someone, like, so in my face, because I was on TikTok at that time and people were searching and things. And so that night, I get down off the mountain and I'm trying to figure out where to go, and we spent a night in the desert. Okay, so at the bottom of this mountain is a desert. It's called Apple Valley, San Bernardino. For reference, it's High Valley Desert, or it's called the High Desert. Yeah. So it's still hot, very different temperatures amongst everything we're experiencing. When we get down there, I'm on a wool blanket. We don't have a tent. This is my money. In the midst of all this, I've forgotten that this dude has not been paying for this. I am. Okay. I'm paying for this. I have forgotten this. I'm just trying to survive. So we get down, we're down at this tent. So we get down, we're down there, we're in this mountain. I've been strangled once at this point. I'm in shock. And I remember just looking to the left of me. We're by the Mojave Reserves at this point, for reference. And I remember looking to the left of me, and I remember seeing these mountains. This part always makes me cry. It's okay that I'm crying. I don't know why, and I saw these mountains, and I'm from the East, and I thought, for a foster youth who's never been anywhere, even despite, like, everything that I was going through, like, the mountains were just so beautiful. Like, at least I could see this, right? I could get through this so that I could see these mountains, and that they were just so beautiful. I'd never seen something that had looked like a painting. And then I thought about what you had said about your daughter and her looking up at the sky, and I thought I just didn't want that mountain to be the last thing I ever saw again. That I wanted to see about 1,000 more mountains, or maybe I wanted to see the ocean, because I'd never done that yet. I hadn't even gotten to see the redwoods, and I thought that my children deserve to have their mom, and how did I get this lost? And seeing that mountain just made me think of that moment, and then I really kicked into gear. I thought, I'm gonna die if I don't leave. So I have to leave. I started telling people. The next place I got to, I was strangled for the second time in front of someone, and her husband told her not to call the police. And so I started to lose hope, because then I was like, I can't call the police. I'm in the desert still. This was like night 2 once we got to his friend's house. And I'm like, this is the second time. Now I've lost oxygen, and I want people to understand that strangulation causes damage. I have difficulty speaking. I have physical damages over time. You'll see my eye lags. Sometimes it wanders. Some half of my face works. Sometimes it doesn't. So I strangled a second time. The second time, was on top of my child. So now it's getting really serious. I'm like, I need to get out of California. I alerted the police in California, and they failed me in California. And I don't mean to put that That's my opinion. That's my view, my experience. But when I called the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department and I said, hey, this is what's happening. I need help. I'm being strangled. I'm from Pennsylvania. I see you have this program called Team Hope, where if you had a license from another state, they would pay you bus tickets to go back home. I was like, can you get a ticket for just me and my son? Like, when my husband's out doing something or off doing something in the woods or something, I could just get on a bus and leave with my son and go back to Pennsylvania. And they ended up telling me that they were going to do that, but never doing that. They never got me tickets. So then I ended up in an RV, and I was paying $1,300 a month to live in an RV in the desert with him. He strangled me again. I called the police. The police came out. They took pictures of my neck and my face. And in this moment, I want to talk a little about, if that's okay. When I called the police finally, and I want people to know what this looks like because of your daughter, and this is normal. After I called the police, was only successful because I had told somebody else. So somebody else was like, if you don't call the police, I'm going to. So I called the police. After calling the police, I immediately called that friend back and I sat on the phone with them. And that was why I was able to get through this, because I sat on the phone when the police came. That way I couldn't lie. I couldn't be like, oh no, it wasn't that bad. My friend was in the background like, it is that bad. Let me tell you what's going on, because I did want to protect him. I don't know how to explain the natural instinct. I was like, never mind when they got there. I was like, don't arrest him. I just want help leaving. Do you have to arrest him? Like, because you're so you see. I couldn't see in that moment. And so I am thankful to my friend that sat on the phone and was like yelling at this cop, no, he strangled her 2 other times. Like, we want her home in Pennsylvania. You need to press charges. We need help for her. And still, they told me in California it would take 67 months to get before the DA, that they could charge him with strangulation, but it would be a piece of paper that they would hand him, that they couldn't physically detain him. So I tried calling a DV shelter. They told me and my child would have to be separated. My son, who is special needs, would have to go into a men's shelter by himself because he was 12 and be separated from me. So I stayed with my abuser. And then I came back to Pennsylvania with him. I convinced him to come back to Pennsylvania with me. And I came back to Pennsylvania, more things going on. Long story short, I finally get into an apartment. I'm telling the housing authority, like, I'm tired at this point. I'm like, I'm in domestic violence, but I'm not telling them I'm being strangled anymore, because at that point, nobody was understanding. Like, I wasn't just choked, like, I was strangled. And that, like, it is very dangerous. And, like, they didn't seem to understand the weight of it. So I didn't understand the weight of it until that last evening when I tried to leave. When I tried to leave, when he found out I wanted to leave him, he tried to end my life, and that was the last time he strangled me. I do want people to understand how they can change how quickly we can respond to these things. Okay, when I was up in San Bernardino, or up in the Bear Lake Valley, I told the Verbo owners that I was in domestic violence. I feel like they could have reached out to domestic violence. If you are an Airbnb owner, a Verbo owner, a landowner that's renting a piece of space, and you notice that the tenants renting your space for whatever period of time seem to be having, or even outright tell you they're having this issue, sure, you might be upset you'll lose a customer. I think that's worth losing rather than a whole life. So I think that if someone, because I told them, like, I need to get off this mountain, I need you to refund me so I could find alternative housing. So they were aware. I think they could have done something to respond, even if it was call the police. I think people are afraid to do that. I think the police, I think they get a little desensitized. And I think we need to bring them back to a different place where they're listening, because I told them that I needed help getting off the mountain, and they sent a team of church people to get me off that mountain, but not the police. It was a team of church people. The Bear Mountain Coalition, shout out to them from that area. They got me off that mountain, but my abuser was brought with me. If that service reacted kind of quickly, and if provided I would have had space to meet with that service where my abuser wasn't at that time, then yeah. And if that service could be very real with me. I want us to talk about these things, but also not sugarcoat them. That non-fatal strangulation doesn't mean non-lethal, that strangulation can and will lead to death. And so that we need to take that seriously when it happens one time. So I think that I wish somebody had talked to me about femicide. I wish that there had been someone to talk to me about strangulation specifically, because if they would have just talked about domestic violence, I would have felt like I'm not getting punched. I'm not getting, like, because you're in such a bargaining state. I think they would have had to, and nobody was talking about strangulation. I didn't see any kind of stuff out there. So I did make my own kind of getting out there. Besides the Strangulation Institute and you guys, I don't see a lot of talk about it. Even when he was arrested, finally, he bailed out the next day. I had to go pretty far and put myself at quite a disadvantage to keep myself safe through my trial, because the system wasn't built for me, the victim. It's built for the defendant and their rights. People could have done more. I think TikTok weirdly did a good job. It was TikTok people on my page. I know that's strange to say, but they came to me before I started talking about it and was like, we noticed something's wrong in the way you're posting, in
Yeah.
our communications have changed. I try to tell people to pay attention to changes in social media. I stopped in the end posting a lot of me and more of my environment, like pretty pictures of the outside rather than pictures of myself. For me personally, that was a sign that that was going on, changes to social media. I get so scared of other people because of the way that TikTok specifically is, but on a YouTube or anywhere, I'd like to talk about this. Number one, that could be used by a defense for the other party, so it's never safe to do, even in a consented manner. But mixing violence with pleasure or sexual activity or romance or love or passion is an extremely dangerous thing. To mix those two signals on a psychological level in the brain, those two very different chemicals, is very dangerous to do. And I went and I got like certified in trauma informed awareness of community building. If the doctors had properly marked my hemorrhaging in my face as what it was, I think the jury would have had an easier time. My jury was very confused with whether I had been slapped or whether I had what was on my face in the photos. And I tried to explain that when you are strangled, I don't want to get too graphic, I don't want her to be it, but when you are strangled, you will hemorrhage into your eye. And you get hemorrhaging in your face. And that hemorrhaging, as it comes to the
Yeah.
surface,
Yes.
it looks interesting, but I was never slapped. Like I had to keep correcting my jury because they had never seen that type of speckling, hemorrhaging. You could see my eye had, and you could see my markings on my neck and such. Um, but it was also getting people to say the word strangulation. You're not choking. Choking is internal. It's a mechanism that happens when you're like, but somebody strangled you. Let's not sugarcoat it when we're talking about it. Let's not tiptoe around it anymore. It's serious. You were strangled. And I know it's a hard word for a lot of people to say this. Like, that sounds harsh. That's what you should be telling the jury. It should sound harsh. You can die from this. It is a very harsh reality. I found on my journey how I could link this in with my foster care dream and give myself back my dream. And I found that former foster youth are at a very high risk in compared to a general population for a number of reasons when it comes to IPV. Even in the foster care world, I'm trying to teach foster parents not to love bomb their foster children now too. I know that sounds strange, but what taught me this, I just want to say, for me personally, as my situation was a little different in this way, was because foster parents, when you first meet them, they love you. They love all these things about you. They're so excited to meet you. But then when you're a human and you have a response, they get rid of you or they do these things and they create that same kind of bonding experience that you might have with an abuser. So that is where I learned to accept this, and I had to undo all of that to get here. Even with my own child now, teaching him what's an appropriate friendship, even what are your boundaries, what is anybody having power over you that they shouldn't, even if it's in friendship to relationships. But also because I'm raising a son, I'm very specific in a lot of ways that I want to make sure he's a safe partner, that he has respect and understanding and empathy for women and for various things. But I've taken him to all kinds of things, so he's actually very okay. But the only places I wanted to talk about was just that Clarion's Safe. That's the place that helped me get my PFA and Michelle's Cafe in Clarion. This cafe watched my child for me so I could go to my trial, so that my son didn't have to sit and listen and rehear that all. And they let him be an entrepreneur while there. He was selling his little art to the people there. District attorney for my county with my abuser did do a good job. I still didn't get a sense of justice from that. I got a sense of justice from coming on here with you or doing my friend Alice's podcast way in the beginning, or the support I got online. But they gave him 2 years. I just want to clarify that at the end of my hearing in my state, with everything, medical documentation for my eye lag, I went to speech, physical therapy, vestibular therapy, and cognitive therapy because of the extent of my injuries, because I lost consciousness, and the um, length of time and amount of pressure that was used during my very last assault that he was actually arrested for. Um, in comparison to that, I felt like 2 years probation was nothing. And so this is where we get justice. This is where we get justice from, is from each other and sharing and trying to fight for laws. I'm hoping in my state in Pennsylvania to turn strangulation into something that is seen as attempted murder. I think that something that was similar that helped me through this and helped others, and why I was able to stay strong, is, your daughter really gave us a little bit of view of what she had going on. So when I left abuse, I wanted to film it and kind of show people how to do it. Like, and also how to dress for court and stuff, because some people aren't sure how to present themselves and like an array of things. But I think that was a big part too, with seeing myself. And now I can look back and I can see myself through the different phases, and that's interesting. So that was really an inspiration to I've been journaling a lot. I'm writing a book. I've been taking every day as it comes slowly. I think a big part of this was allowing myself to feel whatever I needed to feel, no matter how long it took, every step of the way, because you'll feel lots of things, whether you do conviction or not. Leaving abuse is a lot to process, looking backwards. So being gentle, I'm more into my self-care now. I'm learning what hobbies I like. But the biggest thing I've been trying to get as a message out there to people is trying to get them to leave and helping them leave. I've helped a few women make plans, or I've paid for bus tickets, and it's the emotional part that they need a lot of help with. So I tend to step in and say, call me. In replacement of the time you would have spoken to this person, try calling me. I know it won't be the exact same, but let's replace that behavior. I've been trying to learn psychology so that I can help better and be in that space. I want to work with the National DV hotline and answer the phones for people in that moment, because I think I have a big place there. I've helped people in that immediate crisis and explained. I think the best message I've gotten out so far is, whether you leave today or you leave 10 years from today, the emotional suffering that you're seeking to avoid because you are leaving somebody that you love, it will be the same, because we do have to sit with it and we have to go through it to get to the other side of it. And that is the hardest part, is to sit with how you're feeling and not, because abusers kind of get you in an addictive cycle. If you leave today or you leave 10 years from today, you're still gonna have to feel that. So I hope that somebody hears this and they make the choice to start leaving today. And even if it's just steps, even if it's just the bag that's hidden somewhere that you've told someone, the first step for me is I went online, and it took me, I think, about 2 months from the point of really planning to leave. I went online where I could, not everyone can, but I said, step 1, tell the truth out loud. I'm being abused. And I kind of took it as a space from there and said, okay, step 2, I need to leave. Okay, step 3, I'm going to this shelter. And I videoed it for women who do need to go to a shelter, who may lose things to leave abuse, because that's another fear people experience. And I wanted them to see that along this way, sure, yeah, I lost some stuff. I lost a bed. I lost some random items. I'm here, and I didn't lose my voice. And I've gained so much. I may be sitting in my new beautiful apartment I just obtained, and it may look empty to some, but to me, there's more in this apartment than I ever had a day in abuse. I can dance, I can sing. I'm not scared to just exist. I can walk in and out of my door. I'm not afraid. Every time my son can play, and he can just play and nobody's telling him how or how loud. And so in my empty apartment, I have more than I had before. So leave today if you can. Pick today, because your life is worth it. That would be my message. Deep down, whether someone may understand it or not, but that moment in the desert, when I saw those mountains, I realized I had something more to live for. It was like peeking outside the window. And I want her message and all of this to be worth something. It can never be worth it, but I want it to be worth something. I want to save a life. I want someone to leave. I'm choosing to tell my story so they can understand that, yeah, it's hard, but we can do it, and how serious strangulation is, because I did not know, and that there is beauty waiting on the other side that I really think that Gabby deserved to see. And that I think we honor her by helping other people leave. I think we honor her by saving as many lives as we can. Because for me, her story saved my life. And now I'm taking my second chance at life and I'm using it to save other people's lives if I can. So it's meaningful. Thank you for this space and time.